What would you do if your bridesmaids group chat showed they'd been betting against your marriage? I was sitting in the bridal suite getting my makeup done when my maid of honor left her phone on the vanity. The makeup artist was blending foundation on my cheek and the phone screen lit up. A notification popped up from a group chat called Real Talk No Bride. My eyes locked onto the preview text that said placing my bet now and she will not last 6 months. The makeup brush froze against my skin. I reached over and picked up the phone with my free hand. The screen was still unlocked from when Naomi had been scrolling earlier. I tapped the notification and the full chat opened up in front of me. There were messages dating back 8 months to when I first announced my engagement. My chest started rising and falling faster under my silk robe. The makeup artist asked if I was okay and I could not answer her. I just kept scrolling with my thumb moving faster and faster down the screen. The messages showed all 5 of my bridesmaids placing actual money on when my marriage would fail. Tanya had bet $300 that we would divorce within the first year. My cousin Brianna wagered $200 that my fiancé would cheat before the honeymoon ended. I scrolled past a voice memo and my finger accidentally tapped it. Naomi's voice filled the quiet room, saying she could not believe I was actually going through with this disaster. The makeup artist dropped her brush and it clattered against the tile floor. I heard footsteps in the hallway outside the suite door. My hands started trembling so hard the phone almost slipped from my grip. There was a spreadsheet attached in the chat with everyone's names and bet amounts totaling over $2,000. Someone had created a shared document to track odds like my wedding was a horse race. The door handle turned and I shoved the phone back onto the vanity just as Naomi walked in carrying champagne flutes. Her smile looked different to me now as the glasses clinked together in her hands. I told myself there had to be an explanation for what I just read. Maybe this was some dark joke between friends that went too far. I stood up from the chair and my robe caught on the armrest. The silk ripped slightly at the seam and I heard the threads snap. Naomi set the champagne down and rushed over to check the damage. Her fingers touched my shoulder and I flinched backward into the vanity. Bottles of perfume wobbled and one tipped over with a hollow thud. I grabbed my own phone and opened the group chat I shared with my bridesmaids. I scrolled through our messages looking for anything that hinted this was all a prank. Every message was supportive and full of heart emojis and excitement about my big day. Then I picked up Naomi's phone again while she was distracted with the robe. I screenshot the betting spreadsheet and sent it to myself. The whoosh sound of the message sending seemed impossibly loud. Naomi's head snapped up and her eyes went straight to her phone in my hand. She lunged forward and grabbed the phone from my fingers. The case scraped against my palm as she yanked it away. I held up my own phone showing her the screenshot I had just received. Her face went pale and she took 2 steps backward until her back hit the wall. She whispered that I was not supposed to see that. I asked her how long they had all been doing this. She stared at the floor and her champagne flute started shaking in her other hand. The bubbles inside were vibrating against the glass. She said it started as a stupid joke. I slammed my palm against the vanity and every bottle jumped. The door opened again and 3 more bridesmaids walked in wearing their lavender dresses. They saw Naomi's face and they saw my phone screen and every single one of them froze in the doorway. Tanya's bouquet slipped from her hands and hit the carpet with a soft thump. I pushed past them into the hallway and my bare feet slapped against the cold marble floor. I could hear all of them following behind me calling my name. The wedding coordinator appeared around the corner holding a clipboard against her chest. I kept walking toward the main hall where 200 guests were already seated. My veil was still pinned in my hair and it trailed behind me like a ghost. I heard Brianna yelling for me to stop and think about this. The double doors to the ceremony space were right in front of me. I grabbed both handles and pulled them open wide. The music stopped mid-note and the string quartet lowered their instruments. Every head in the room turned to look at me standing there in my robe and half-done makeup. My fiancé stood at the altar and his smile slowly faded when he saw my expression. I walked down the aisle past rows of confused faces. I stopped at the front and turned to face every guest in those white chairs. My phone was still clutched in my hand and I held it up for everyone to see. Announced that my bridesmaids had been betting money on my marriage failing since the day I got engaged. The room erupted in gasps and whispers that sounded like wind rushing through leaves. I read the bet amounts out loud, starting with Naomi's $500 on annulment within 90 days. My mother stood up from the front row and her chair scraped against the floor. My fiancé grabbed my arm and I pulled away from his grip. The 5 bridesmaids were now standing at the back of the hall with their dresses bright against the white decor. Tanya turned and ran for the exit. I told the guests that there would be no wedding today. My fiancé's face crumpled and he reached for me again. I unclipped the veil from my hair and dropped it onto the altar. The white fabric pooled like spilled milk on the dark wood. I walked back down the aisle alone while the silence pressed against my ears. The double doors closed behind me with a heavy click.